Once, in a small town nestled between thick forests and rolling hills, there was a traveling circus known for its unusual performances. The centerpiece of the circus was a clown named Varnum. Unlike the other performers, Varnum didn't wear bright, cheery colors. His makeup was pale white, with a jagged smile painted in deep crimson. His eyes were ringed in black, making them appear sunken and hollow. Despite his eerie appearance, people couldn't help but laugh at his exaggerated antics and bizarre tricks. Varnum's fame spread quickly, and soon he became the star of the show. People traveled from neighboring towns to see the Laughing Shadow, as they called him. But behind the scenes, something far darker festered. Varnum wasn't just playing the role of a sinister clown. He had always been different, harboring a deep hatred for the world around him. The laughter he created on stage was nothing more than a mask for his true nature, a twisted, malevolent force that fed on fear. He reveled in the discomfort his presence caused, enjoying the nervous chuckles of the audience far more than their outright laughter. As the circus moved from town to town, people began to disappear. It started with a few children who strayed too far from their parents during the show. Then, it was adults, seemingly vanishing into thin air. Whispers spread among the townsfolk, tales of a shadowy figure that was seen lurking around the tents at night, a figure with a painted smile that never seemed to fade. Authorities investigated, but they found no evidence linking Varnum to the disappearances. The circus moved on, and the trail grew cold. But the townspeople knew. They could feel it in their bones, that something was terribly wrong with the Laughing Shadow. Varnum's true nature was revealed on a stormy night in a particularly superstitious village. The circus tent was packed, the air thick with anticipation and the smell of popcorn. As Varnum performed his usual routine, something felt different. His movements were more erratic, his laughter more unsettling. The audience, once amused, now sat in uneasy silence. Then, without warning, the lights went out. In the pitch black, the only sound was Varnum's laughter, deep, guttural, and echoing through the tent. When the lights flickered back on, a child from the front row was gone. Panic erupted. People screamed and ran for the exits, but the tent flaps wouldn't budge. They were trapped. Varnum stood in the center of the ring, his painted smile now grotesque, twisted into something far beyond human. His eyes glowed with a sickening light, and his laughter no longer seemed like part of the act. It was real, pure, unfiltered madness. As the crowd cowered in terror, Varnum revealed his true form, shedding his human disguise. He was no longer just a clown but a creature born from nightmares, a being that thrived on fear and despair. The tent became a chamber of horrors, a prison where no one could escape. By the time the authorities arrived, the circus had vanished. Only the empty field remained, the grass trampled and scorched. The town was left in mourning, its people haunted by the memory of that night. Varnum and his circus were never seen again. But legend has it that if you listen closely on stormy nights, you can still hear the faint echoes of his laughter, carried on the wind, a chilling reminder that some nightmares never truly end. Years passed, and the legend of Varnum the Killer Clown faded into whispers shared only around campfires. The small towns that once trembled at the thought of his circus moved on, though some never truly forgot. The disappearances became local folklore, warning children not to stray too far during traveling carnivals and circuses that occasionally passed through. But Varnum had not vanished forever. Far from it. He had only gone into hiding, lurking in the shadows, waiting for the perfect moment to reemerge. Decades later, in a town on the outskirts of a dense forest, strange sightings began again. People claimed to see flashes of a pale face with a painted smile, always in the corner of their vision. At first, it was dismissed as imagination, But soon the sightings became more frequent. Children reported hearing soft, eerie laughter from the woods at night, and pets began disappearing without a trace. The fear that had once gripped the region returned, creeping into the hearts of the townspeople. Despite their best efforts to dismiss it, the stories of Varnum resurfaced. The townsfolk tried to comfort themselves with the idea that it was just a legend. Varnum couldn't possibly still be out there, not after all these years. But deep in the forest, something stirred. A group of teenagers, eager to prove their bravery, decided to investigate the woods where the sightings had occurred. Armed with flashlights and bravado, they ventured into the dense trees under the cover of darkness. They joked and laughed to keep the fear at bay, but as they moved deeper into the forest, an unnatural silence fell over them. The air grew heavy, and the night seemed to close in around them. Suddenly, one of the flashlights flickered and died. Then another. Panic began to set in as they realized they were in complete darkness. That's when they heard it, a soft, slow clap followed by the unmistakable sound of Varnum's laughter. It echoed through the trees, coming from every direction at once. The group tried to run, but the forest seemed to twist and turn on itself, disorienting them. No matter which way they went, they always ended up back at the same spot, a small clearing where the air felt colder, and the ground seemed unnaturally still. Then, from the shadows, Varnum stepped into view. He looked almost the same as he had in the old photos and stories, pale skin, crimson smile, hollow eyes. But there was something different now, something even more terrifying. His smile no longer looked painted. It seemed real, a part of him. And his eyes. They weren't just hollow anymore. They were filled with an unnatural light, glowing with malevolent energy. The teenagers froze in terror as Varnum slowly approached, his laughter growing louder and more distorted with every step. He didn't run or chase them. He didn't need to. The forest was his domain, and they were already trapped. One by one, the teenagers disappeared, their screams cut short by the oppressive silence of the woods. When the search parties were sent out the next day, all they found were their abandoned flashlights, lying in the clearing, still flickering weakly. Word of the disappearances spread quickly. The town was gripped by fear, and no one dared to venture into the woods again. The local authorities dismissed it as a tragic accident, but the townspeople knew better. The laughing shadow had returned, and now it was more powerful than ever. As the years passed, more people went missing, always near the forest, always under mysterious circumstances. The town began to shrink as families moved away, unwilling to live in a place haunted by an ancient evil. Those who remained lived in constant fear, knowing that Varnum was still out there, watching, waiting. The circus never returned, but the legend of Varnum the killer clown only grew stronger. Some said that he could never be truly defeated, that he was more than just a man, he was a force of nature, a manifestation of fear itself. And as long as there were people who were afraid, he would always find a way to come back. To this day, on dark, stormy nights, some claim they can still hear Varnum's laughter carried on the wind, a chilling reminder that nightmares, once born, never truly die.